dropped in, coming late. It's Christina from Mind. I was here last week. I've just popped in.
Oh, hi.
I've
Nice
got
to
much
see
to
you.
offer, but
Thanks for joining us.
still very new. Thanks.
So we're changing the format very slightly for the Mental Health Forum each month now, because we thought it might be a good idea to split it into youth mental health and adult mental health. And as soon as I did that, I thought, what came to mind was Couth. And I don't know if everyone remembers, it seems like a lifetime away when we actually used to meet in person at the church on Mount Avenue in Ealing. And Kerry came to that before. I think it must have been about 18 months ago or something. And I thought, wouldn't it be good to get an update about Couth and see how they're getting on and see how things are progressing. So that's why I've invited Kerry here today. So thanks very much, Kerry, for joining us. So yeah, if you could just give us an update about Couth, that would be great.
Of course, thank you ever so much for inviting me, Toby. And yeah, I think it was maybe just before sort of this time last year that I think I came over, but it feels like it was a different world and I was able to actually come and join you in the church hall. So thank you for inviting me. So yeah, updates from Couth. So when I came and presented Couth, just over a year ago, the reason that Toby had invited me is because we had started to have some discussions with commissioners in Ealing about the possibility of launching Couth in Ealing. And Couth is our online mental health service for children and young people that offers a combination of self-help, peer support and access to professional counsellors as well. So we were in some discussions with them, and I think that I just wanted to update everyone where that's got to really. So because of the CCGs merging across northwest London, what commissioners were telling us is that what they really want is a consistent service across all 8 of the CCGs in northwest London in terms of that digital offer for children and young people. So we already work, Couth's already available in 6 of the northwest London boroughs. So it's Ealing and Hounslow are the ones where we don't have Couth currently. So what the commissioners are now looking to do, which they've been keeping us updated on, is they're going to go out to tender and procure a digital service for children and young people that will go across all 8 of those boroughs. So that will bring in Ealing and Hounslow as well. Obviously, we're very hopeful that it will be Couth, but they are going out to the market, so it could be a different provider. But what they will get from us or from a different provider will be that that online offer being available for any young person up to the age of 25 across those boroughs. And what they're talking about at the moment is that the procurement will be done early in 2021, with the service being due to start around about June of 2021. So we're very hopeful that we will be in a position to launch Couth and update you at that point. So that's really the update. I just wanted to say a bit more about what's been happening at Couth and the kind of trends that we've been noticing in our existing services, because I think it may be of interest to some of you that are working with children and young people in terms of how young people are kind of coping with the pandemic. So what we've seen at Couth is we have had quite an increase in the service being used. We have launched quite a lot of new services during the pandemic, so it's partly that, but it's also places where we've got existing services, including some of your kind of neighbouring boroughs. Young people are logging on more frequently to use the service, and more young people are registering and joining Couth. And we've noticed some particular trends in terms of the issues that they're bringing to us as well. So what we've seen is sleep difficulties and loneliness. They weren't even in our kind of top 10 issues on Cooth before. So it's not that young people were never bringing those issues, but they weren't, you know, prominent, and now they are up there in our top 10. They're quite significant issues that young people are bringing. And loneliness was particularly in London, that was being reported by young people more than in some of our rural areas that we support. So our guess with that is it may be around the, you know, the amount of contact that young people in London are used to having with their peers, as obviously, you know, really had to drop away during the pandemic. The other thing we've noticed, particularly in recent weeks, is an increase in worries about school and college and about exams as well. So that's really peaked in the recent weeks, which when we talk to young people, it appears to be related to the disruption at schools. So obviously schools went back, but, you know, those of us with family and you know, with kids around know that they've been going in and out of school because of closures of year groups and closures of bubbles. So I think it's that disruption is making them worry about how it's going to impact on their results and their future. And kind of related to that, we've also seen a lot of young people presenting with worries about their future career aspirations and whether they'll be able to kind of get to the place where they want to be in their lives in the future. And that's something that hasn't really been a prevalent issue on Cooth before. So I just thought it was worth me kind of sharing those trends because it may relate to what you're seeing in the community as well. And obviously what we're doing at Cooth, because we've got all this data and we can see what the issues are that young people are presenting with, is we respond to that and make sure that there's lots of content available and that our staff are well trained to respond to those specific issues that are being brought. And that's really all from me.
Well, that's great, Kerry. Thank you. That's really interesting, particularly about those themes emerging. I've got my first question. I'm just thinking about, you know, your work in different boroughs, and I'm just thinking how it works if an individual contacts you and then they do live in Ealing or Hounslow, and they might have heard perhaps from a friend who lives in another borough. I mean, where do you signpost them to? And that must be quite a difficult conversation, isn't it, to say to a young person, sorry, we can't help you because of where you live and your postcode.
Yeah, I think normally we obviously let people know that we're you know, that we're hoping to launch in the borough in the future, and then it's just about kind of signposting them to local websites where they might be able to find out what's available locally. That's all we can do, really. Yeah.
And have you been connecting to the whole Mint team that I think Daniel's on this call as well, and that initiative, just thinking about how you can signpost people and things like that?
I don't believe that we have, but my colleagues kind of working locally may have done. But yeah, it'd be great if you don't mind me sticking around so I can hear about that initiative. Yeah, that'd be great. I think Toby, somebody's just popped a question in the chat as well about the age range. Yeah, so we normally start at age 11, and then depending on what the local area wants, we either go up to age 18 or up to age 25. But what they want to do with this new service that's being procured across northwest London is they definitely want to go up to age 25, because it really supports with that that transition where young people might be moving from children and young people's services to adult services in kind of other spheres of support that they've got. It's great that they can have that consistent support from Cooth.
Okay, so Val's got a hand up, and Evie's just said that she wants to chat with you, so I can send Evie your contact details as well, unless you want to put them in the chat. If you want to.
Oh, I'll pop them in the chat. Yeah, that's fine. Let me just do that.
Is Ealing in the
Hi,
25-year
Kate.
range? So Maureen just says, following on from that question, is Ealing in the 25-year bracket range for support? Yes, it is.
It will be when it launches.
When it launches,
yeah.
Okay, love it. Okay, over to you, Val, for your question.
Yeah, Kerry, I'm sorry, I just got the end of that. You said that the most, the obvious ones were sleep deprivation and loneliness. What was your top 5 of things that affected young people and their mental health? What, I mean, you said that was quite a surprise to you.
So at the moment nationally, anxiety and stress is the top reason that young people come to see us. And then it's family and relationships, and then we actually have suicidal thoughts and self-harm are up there in the top 5 as well, sadly, but we've seen a rise in those thoughts, but they were already there, kind of up there in that top 5. I think the loneliness and the sleep difficulties, they're the ones where we've seen a big rise during the pandemic of those issues, and it's affected, because we do provide some adult services as well, it's affecting adults across the country as well that we're noticing. And I guess it's no surprise to see that, but it's different from the trends that we used to see before the pandemic.
Right, okay, thank you.
Toby?
Yes?
Could I ask a question?
Please do, yep.
Yeah, we're at Mind Food, we look after the parents, I guess, of a lot of the stressed children, and we're seeing quite a rise in the number of children who are, I guess, pretty depressed, really, not motivated to go to school when they can go to school. And I guess because it's been cancelled such a lot, and probably if they're struggling with their sleep, they're just not wanting to get up and go to school. And I wondered if you'd had much sign of that from your end, with people saying they feel very demotivated and can't be able to go to school.
Yeah, we have seen a bit of that, and then also I think for some of our users who already had some mental health difficulties pre the pandemic, I think what we're seeing is actually they felt quite safe when schools were closed, and they felt quite safe being at home, and then when the schools reopened, they didn't necessarily want to go back to school. So I think we're seeing some of that, and some of what you're describing in terms of that lack of motivation.
So in fact, some it could still be COVID fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. Thanks.
Any other questions for Kerry? So from a practical sense, it is looking very likely, because why would Ealing and Hounslow not ask you to support their boroughs if all the other boroughs in the CCG are? Because that would just be ridiculous, wouldn't it, to get a different supplier? So we can kind of say that it's looking very likely.
Yeah, and I think that you will have an online offer for your children and young people, because that's what the tender is intending to produce. And obviously we're in a good position at Cooth to be that provider, but we can't, nothing's a given. I'm sure you've all been involved in tenders and things as well. You have to just go through through the process, don't you? And but yes, I'm sure there'll be more news on that as we go through next year as well.
Yeah, well, that's great, and this will be a great forum to get the message out about your services. And so we hopefully will look forward to seeing a lot of more of you. That would be great. Brilliant.
Thank you ever so much, Toby.
Thanks for joining us. That's great. Okay, so Evie, would you like to tell us about the Zanye Foundation?
Yes, of course. So my name's Evie. I work for Zananya Foundation, and we're an Ealing-based charity that was established in 2003. Originally, what we were set up to do was to help people coming from post-Soviet Union countries settling in the UK to provide opportunities for community integration and education. However, about 5 years ago, we sort of rebranded and changed to be much more inclusive, and now there's no restrictions on, you know, the people we service. So we had a project, we've had lots of projects happening over the summer. I don't know if some of your students might have attended, but we we launched the biggest summer school online for free for students, which was brilliant. As soon as the pandemic sort of hit, we realized, you know, how many kids weren't able to go online, or parents that were having to work full time obviously couldn't sit with their young children to help them with online learning. And so they were increasingly losing education. And so what we did is we set up an online summer school for 6 weeks that was entirely free. Which was brilliant, for ages 3 to 18, that ran every single day. And now that is actually still going. We've extended it to more of a catch-up thing now. So that's still going until the new year. But on top of that, we had a project called Our Confidence and Wellbeing that we actually launched in 2019. We got the lottery funding in 2019. And so we launched Our Confidence and Wellbeing. And originally it was things like public speaking, you know, different things like that. But obviously, because of COVID, kind of had to pivot that and everything had to move online. So what we've actually done is we integrated into, instead of just doing core subjects, we integrated in mental health subjects for all ages, even from age 3, even things about making friends, sharing, you know, things like that. And we ran loads of different projects online every day. As I said, people came on. We actually worked with Mind, Mosaic. We had a lot of LGBTQ plus talks about how to, you know, using the right pronouns for people, how to respect people's, you know, independence and things like that. The Centre for ADHD and Autism and lots of different things. And that was brilliant. So we had sessions, sort of things like, you know, understanding your own personal space and how to respect that and others. And then I think sort of as the pandemic carried on, we realized how much more mental that was becoming something that was getting really subscribed. We were actually quite surprised how many people were coming onto that, how many parents were getting in touch saying, you know, my son is really struggling, especially with the loneliness. Like you said, that's been a big thing that I think we've noticed from our young people. I think we had 2,300 kids come online with us in 6 weeks. And they were just, that was one of the biggest things. And so what we did is for World Mental Health Day on October 10th, we actually ran a conference. We worked with Young Ealing Foundation. I'm sure some of you know them. Ealing Council support us a lot. And we basically ran a conference. One of our leaders, our mental health leaders from, she's not available today, but she works for Mind, and she was the Youth Secretary in Parliament for Mental Health for Ealing. And so what we did is sort of gave students it was completely anonymous, obviously, for them to join online, tips on how to deal with it. This year's theme was obviously suicide prevention for World Mental Health Day. So we talked through, you know, basically not just understanding in themselves, but their friends, how you know, because it's a lot more difficult to understand online. It's harder for us to understand the tone of people when we're interacting online, picking up these signs in our friends and our families and our co-workers. And it was brilliant. So what we're doing now is we're actually extending that into the new year, which I think is obviously why I'm here today as well, to talk about that a bit. We've partnered with another local Ealing charity that they have funding for women only sports activities. And because we have such a big network online, they're now running sports activities for girls aged, I think it's age 9 to 16-ish. So just, you know, the sort of year 6 to pre-GCSE age. And it's all online physical exercise for them, with the aim to promote, you know, mental well-being and keeping those endorphins going at home to enable them to struggle, you know, keep going through these times. And then on top of that, we've got some new self-care sessions coming in the new year, which will be open for students, but it's actually going to be open for adults as well, because, you know, it's been so important for us to reach the students. That's what we do as a charity. But obviously the parents are watching their children struggle, are struggling a lot themselves, and we really want to make sure that we can sort of extend our offerings to the whole family. That's really important for us, so that the whole household is, you know, able to have tips and come to us confidently and things like that. So we're doing things like awareness on, you know, self-harming, things like emotional well-being, tips for well-being, how to increase your well-being at home, and things like that. And yeah, so we're always looking to work with other people if there's anything that other people provide. At the minute, it is all online, unfortunately, obviously, until we can safely reopen in person. yeah, so we just run lots of different activities, but well-being has sort of become something that, although we already had a project, has really sort of taken off during COVID, that we thought we were going to close down and wasn't going to be able to run, but it's actually become one of the most prominent things that we've had to transition online and completely adapt how we offer it. And it's proven to be, I'm so glad we did, because it's proven to be vitally important. But yeah, as I said, we're trying to extend it now to more family, the whole family, kind of, not just the students, although that's our focus. We want to try and make sure that we're supporting the whole household, you know, individuals, adults, single adults, everything that we can. So we're really looking to work with other people as well to enable us to do that in the new year.
Wow, it sounds very impressive what you've managed to achieve. And so I was just going to ask you some basic questions about, in terms of the size of your organisation. I mean, how many members of staff, how many volunteers
So
to enable you to do this?
We're all actually volunteers. We all pretty much have full-time jobs. We work together 1 day a week. We're all, so a lot of them are young. We're all under 25, the ones that are in the office at the minute. There's 4 of us and we all volunteer. It's all unpaid volunteer. And so there's 4 of us. So I do sort of all the events and project management. We have someone that does sponsorship, and we have our logistics that puts all the events up online. And that's pretty much it at the minute. It's a really small team. Obviously we have our trustees as well. But they're obviously sort of more the decision, you know, the larger decision making and funding. And then, yeah, we just work. We all actually went to school. I went to North Ealing and then went to Drayton, went away and worked in fashion, and then came back to Ealing and now work. So we all did different things and have sort of come back to our community. And our tagline is for the community, by the community. That's what we always say. So everything we do is run with the intention of aiding our community, but I mean, for the summer school, we ended up having about 45 teachers, and they were all, you know, retired teachers from our old high schools that we all sort of reached out to, friends that were studying and training, that all gave up completely unpaid, free, gave lessons for 6 weeks online. And it was all run by local people. We got donation. You might have seen our posts on like Hanwell Friends and Pittshanger Friends and stuff. And we got donations of books. So any child that was on free school meals, we hand delivered packs to them. So, you know, like pens and pencils, revision books for different ages, so that they could actually access and enjoy our lessons to the full potential as well. So it's really been a full community effort. And it's actually been really, especially at this time with COVID, it's been really nice to see people come together for this project. But yeah, we're just trying to extend that now you know, we've built this momentum and we want that to continue as much as possible into the year.
And how does it, like the similar question I was asking to Carrie, thinking about, you know, friends in different boroughs, is it purely just Ealing based?
No, we work all across London. We work, our main boroughs are Newham, Kensington and Chelsea and Ealing. I mean, we're from Ealing, so we do work mainly there. But obviously we work very closely in Ealing, but we work all across London. Our summer school now, obviously it started with just Ealing, but it was so in demand that we sort of just let anyone come online. But yeah, no, we work all across London, specifically in those 3 areas. Newham obviously is a very low income area as well. So what our charity does basically is provides opportunities specifically for low income families to be able to progress in society as individuals and to integrate into different communities, no matter what their background, what diaspora they come from, that they're given the equal opportunity to excel and, you know, participate in communities and in life as much as any other person would have the opportunity to do so, whether that's through, you know, training for adults, which we used to do a lot, but obviously now COVID sort of changed that, support for children, mental health. So anything all our projects are sort of with the goal to help people prosper as individuals to then integrate in society as a whole.
Great. Okay, anyone else got a question for Evie? Just scrolling across to see if anyone's got their hand up. No? Okay. Well, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us. It's great to be.
And hopefully if you can come to any more of these forums, it would be great to stay in touch. That's really good.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So now we're going to move on to more the adult mental health, and Emma from RNIB, who Maureen very kindly introduced and said that Emma has, is promoting the use of some pre-employment professional online training.
Hello there, thank you very much. Hi, I'm sorry everybody, I'm having a slight issue with my camera today, so there was a slight issue with sound earlier, so I hope you can all hear me.
Yep, we can all hear you great. Yep.
Okay, thanks for having me along. And can I just start off by saying the work that Kerry and Evie have just spoken about just sounds absolutely phenomenal in what you're doing and reaching out to young people in your community. So, you know, it just sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm here today because I work for RNIB and I am the employment advisor for London within RNIB. Now, yeah, you mentioned Maureen, who I had contact with some time ago, and Maureen then linked me up with her colleague Sarah, who I believe is on the call, and they have some of her colleagues have undergone our training. The reason we're reaching out and making contact with organisations is to enable them to understand about our pre-employment professionals training. As an organisation, we changed our employment models some time ago because from the research that had been carried out, we were very concerned about the fact that too many people who are blind and partially sighted were leaving their work unnecessarily. So it could be that, you know, their employer wasn't necessarily aware of reasonable adjustments or access to work or how to support them, or thought it was too expensive, and that the person with the sight loss or with acquired sight loss didn't really know what to do in how to retain their job. So our focus is on retention, but we still acknowledge that there is great need for pre-employment support. So what we then decided to do is reach out to pre-employment organisations and offer them our training, which is currently free. And that training then enables pre-employment professionals to understand more about sight loss and employment statistics, common eye conditions, certification and registration process, how to improve practice and communications, the principles of sighted guidance and specialist support available. So when an individual rings up needing pre-employment support, we're not just saying, right, okay, there's a couple of organisations down the road. We know that we've built a relationship with the organisations. We know they're reputable. We know they've undergone our training, and we're confident in signposting those individuals to those particular organisations. So hence my contact with Maureen, hence why I'm on the call today to just sort of say hello to you and to let you know about the training. Also, as an organisation, Kerry touched upon it earlier, loneliness. That has been a major issue for so many of our clients. Obviously, sight impairment can create isolation for many people, no more so than, you know, during the lockdown and this pandemic. So we also have other services. We have living with sight loss courses, which enable people to find out about local services and link up with people perhaps in similar situations remotely in a telephone group. And we also have a sight loss counselling team, which offers emotional support and counselling through our qualified counsellors who are specifically trained to support people with sight loss and their family and friends. And along with the training for pre-employment providers, we also provide employer training, because what we also want to do is reach out to employers to help them understand how to support colleagues who are blind and partially sighted and retain their work, and again support both the employee and the employer in moving forward with the situation. So I hope this has been of some use, and I hope it's let you know a little bit more about what we do. And does anybody have any questions?
Can I just say something? Emma, thank you that you're able to attend this session.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and also 3 of my colleagues are in this call that also undertook this training, and it's brilliant. Wow. So I would really recommend that if people can see the value in what Emma is offering, it will be a very good asset and tool to add to working with people that have any kind of sight impairment. So yeah, I just wanted to sell it.
Oh, Maureen, honestly, thank you so much for that, because obviously I've worked with the charity for quite some time now. I'm very passionate about what I do. And it's just so lovely to have that endorsement and that feedback. And also what we really want to do is demystify people's misconceptions around sight impairment. And sometimes because with the employer training, I deliver that via Teams, and prior to the pandemic, I was out delivering it face to face. And you can just see that light bulb moment where an individual suddenly understands that sight loss actually isn't that complicated, and that somebody who's blind and partially sighted doesn't necessarily have to have a guide dog or a stick. So Maureen, that feedback is really, really great, and I really do appreciate that, and your involvement with the training. Thank you.
So Emma, how do we actually go about accessing it? Have you got information you can send me that I can circulate to everyone else?
Yeah, of course I have, Toby. I can send that out to you.
Yeah.
And then what people can do, it's really, really straightforward, okay? You just let me know if you want to do the training. All we need you to do is just complete the candidate list. Literally, it's people's emails, addresses. One organisation just has to a learning agreement to say that they're happy for us to contact them in 6 months' time to see how effective the training is, because we want to build a relationship. We don't just sort of disappear. We want you to know we're still here, and then we send the training out electronically. Just so there's no limit to how many colleagues undertake the training. And like I said, currently there's no cost.
Hi, Toby. Can I add something, please? I'm just going to second what Maureen had said about the training. I thought it was fantastic training, Emma. Seven other colleagues of ours in VRS actually completed a training too. I think it was extremely specifically all the assisted technology that's available, for people with sight problems. I think that was a real eye opener, no pun intended.
Hey, I know everybody uses that expression, so
sorry.
No, don't worry.
I couldn't think of anything else.
We're quite used to it.
Yeah, highly recommended. Really good.
Oh,
I got a lot out of it, so thank you so much. And it's a really easy process, registering and getting that the quiz done at the end and everything. And I know you're there, so I know you're always there to assist, because I on occasion I will be working with service users who along with the mental health difficulties may have obviously sight impairments as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Honestly, I can't say how much it's a pleasure. So, and thank you for engaging and supporting us. Okay, thank you, Sarah.
That's great. Okay, thanks, Emma. So now we're going to move on. Well, unfortunately, Nami from Compassionate Communities can't make it today. She was going to give us an update. For those who are at the previous meeting, she was telling us about this new funding opportunity via Imperial College, but I'm sure Nami will be joining us in the new year. So before we move on to the Mint update, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, quite a few of us had a meeting with the Mint team, and since then I do have details of another specific Mint meeting for Ealing groups and individuals, and I'm going to be sending the details of that around shortly, but that's going to be on Wednesday the 20th of January from 2 to 3:30 via Zoom. I will send that link around. But yeah, so Daniel, would you like to give an update? Daniel? Daniel, are you on this call?
I don't think Daniel's on the call, but I can.
I'm here as well, Toby. It's John, and
oh,
Craig's here as well. I'm not sure if Dan's on the call today, but I'm John Luff, and I'm service manager in Ealing for the recovery teams and some other services. And I suppose I'm not sure if people are aware. I'm not sure at what level of knowledge people are in the group with the Mint development. So should I start from the very beginning, Toby, or
I think, to be honest, quite a few people I can see here were on that call. I think it was last week. But I think people were more keen to know about how it was connecting back to Ealing Council, because I was quite aware that when I compare the whole Mint activities with Hounslow, that Hounslow groups seem to be much more connected to the council, and there's more buy-in from the council and participation at meetings such as these. But I feel there's a real disconnect between this meeting and the council and Mint initiatives. So I'm just really keen to balance this up and to offer that sort of environment that groups in Hounslow have. So it's great that we do have that meeting in the diary on the 20th, but it'd just be good to get some reassurance about how this is connecting back to Ealing Council, because it seems like a huge gap there where I can see it's really well connected to Hounslow. So I'm just trying to even up that imbalance.
Thanks, Toby. Shall I just give us a brief answer to that then? So Hounslow, my colleague Rob, who you'll know, Toby, very well, is the service manager in Hounslow, and there's a bit of a different setup there in terms of the integrated working with the council. So in Hounslow, the West London Trust and the council are disaggregated, so the trust aren't responsible. You know, they're two separate organisations working together to provide care for people with mental health problems in the borough. In Ealing, we have a Section 75 agreement where the council gives the trust some money, and the trust manages the social workers, the mental health social workers, in order to provide secondary mental health care to that cohort of people in Ealing. So, and in terms of Mint in Ealing, I must confess that I think we're a couple of stages behind Hounslow's development and integration with the voluntary sector and other organisations in the borough. And I think we're probably a month or so behind that. So that's for me to take up and for me to improve. And part of that is being involved from now on at your invite, Toby, to these meetings, and to bring along my council colleagues. So we have Antonia Garner, who works with me in the trust from a local authority perspective, and we've got Ben Burns. So I'll report back from these meetings and see if we can get some input from them going forward at these forums, which I think will be really useful. The other thing to say is there's a Hounslow specific Mint update meeting for trust partners tomorrow, and Toby, as you rightly said, there's an Ealing specific one in the second half of January on Wednesday the 20th, and if we can just make sure that everybody here is invited to that, that would be great. I think that's really useful. I'm not really sure what other developments I can talk about at the moment.
Well, that's great. I mean, you've already filled in so much. You've very succinctly filled in all the gaps of information. It's really interesting how I wasn't aware of the different relationships between Mint and I didn't quite understand all that section, blah, 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 but it's obvious there is a difference there. I was viewing it as there was the same relationship, but it's great. Thank you very much for explaining that, because I'm not sure about anyone else on this call, but I wasn't aware of that difference. So it's great.
So from my perspective, Toby, the better relationship is the integrated relationship between the trust and the local authority, because of course for our service users that means that you only have to come through one door and you get access to both sides, you know, the local authority and the trust, rather than, and part of what Mint is trying to improve, I suppose, is multiple different assessments for service users and multiple different exclusion criteria for services, and all of these things historically which have been barriers for people to access the services that they need. And I do think obviously a more integrated relationship with the council and the trust helps that straight away, but Mint will improve that even further. But in terms of our involvement with partner organisations in Ealing. We are just a little bit behind the developments that are going on in Hounslow, but hoping to catch up pretty soon with that. Yeah.
Okay, great. I can see Latvia's got her hand up. We've got a question for John.
I think maybe more of an update, I think, actually, because
Okay.
We've had a meeting with Daniel and Craig, I think it was Craig, in terms of looking at some of the challenges and the difficulties experienced between referral pathways, between IAPT in particular and the voluntary sector. So there has been a meeting to progress and move forward with some of the issues that were raised at the last meeting by some of us in terms of the referrals, and there's another meeting planned in January as well. And I think Daniel probably will send out some information on that and an invite as well. And I think that should be really, really welcomed, because I think there was a lot of frustration at the last meeting by some of the voluntary sector in terms of partnership working, and how that has been very one way. Whereby, and I think some of that, it will just help to iron some of that out. So rather than us being kind of feeling that we're being dumped on and having to contribute our resources in a way that's not sustainable, I'm hoping some of that will also be addressed in Ealing. I think what you're saying there, Toby, in Hounslow, that partnership working, there seems to be some movement in terms of that partnership working also encompassing the voluntary sector. In terms of looking at funding community organisations to provide services that meet the outcomes that the trust is trying to achieve in terms of equality. In particular, whilst that doesn't appear to be happening in Ealing, I think that's what maybe the difference is between the two boroughs. But possibly, because I certainly have not seen any of that discussion in Ealing in the way that it has taken place in and I suppose it'd be useful to know where that discussion is taking place and how many stages behind is that discussion in Ealing.
Okay, well, that's great getting that update on that. I'm glad that there's more discussions taking place, and it's good we've got this other one in the diary for the 20th of January. So it's looks like we're catching up a bit.
The one on the 20th of January, I think it's the same meeting, so people can come along to it.
Okay, great. Any other questions for the Mint team from anyone before we move on? No.
Just a quick point. Sorry, go on, Latvia.
There was a Mint meeting that I attended, and it feels like quite a long time ago. And I'm just wondering, is the January meeting intended to provide an update in terms of what's moved forward since then? And I think I did raise this at the last meeting as well. There didn't seem to be anything that's come out from that meeting that's been distributed, unless I've just missed it.
Is it right for me to respond to that? It's John. So first of all, I suppose I just need to clarify the meeting on the 20th of January. Is that the meeting that Dan was calling?
No, I think that's a different meeting. I think that's more of a local meeting in Ealing.
Okay.
And that possibly, I think, I'm trying to remember top of my head. I think that might be the 14th of January. I'm just thinking.
So I suppose, just because I'm a little bit confused about those meeting dates as well, what I can say for clarity is tomorrow, between 11 and 1, the Trust is holding a further Mint workshop, which is actually open to everyone. And I know, Toby, you're invited to that, and a number of other people I can see on the list have had invites to that. That is going to focus on some of the Hounslow developments that are happening in the Mint transformation across the Trust. But I think it's just as useful for people from services in Ealing to be involved, because then we can understand exactly what's going on in the other boroughs and how we can move towards that ourselves in Ealing too. So that meeting is called well, it's the 5th Minch workshop, and that's a Microsoft Teams meeting that's happening tomorrow between 11 and 1. And I think maybe it might be useful if the meeting we were talking about earlier on the 20th of Jan is more of an Ealing specific forum, a bit like what we had a week or two ago.
When Dan
to share
sent
that
me
invite.
the information about it, he said that the action points on the last meeting were a draft list of interventions to be drawn up for what is currently offered in the RT's PCMHS, Will, Craig and Dan, and then implement better information sharing with third sector organisations, blah, blah, blah. LBE representation requested at third sector organisation meetings. That's you, John, to discuss with LBE. And Jeremy Mulclair to be linked up with Anna Polls in Need.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think we need to go back to Dan and see.
So I think that's clarified it for me, Toby. So that Dan's talking about is a follow-up to the meeting we had on a Wednesday afternoon a couple of weeks ago. The one I'm talking about tomorrow is a bigger trust-wide, council-wide, tri-borough and voluntary sector and partnership organisation-wide workshop where I would welcome everyone to join if they possibly can. I know, Toby, you've got the invite, and I don't know whether you could just forward that to the invite list.
Yes, I will send that around.
This group on the call, because I just think that's really useful as well, where that will all be quite an in-depth look at the Mint transformation work and how we can really improve our partnership working in all the boroughs, not just Hounslow.
Okay.
Thank you. I've just got the date actually. That's more for the local, better, I suppose, the kind of the understanding between IAPT and the statute and the voluntary sector. It's on the 13th of January. I think that's just very Ealing specific.
Okay then. Now we're just going to move on to Deborah at Ealing Abbey Counselling. She's going to give us an update of how things have been there recently. So over to you, Deborah.
Thanks very much. And maybe just to check actually, because I'm not a regular attender at the mental health forum meetings, and certainly since we've all gone online anyway. I don't work on a Friday at Ealing Abbey Counselling Service, so it's been really good to be able to attend today. But I don't know if people generally know that much about our service, because I can certainly update you on where we're at, since the since the virus sort of broke out. But would it be helpful just to give you a quick overview of who we are?
Please. I think just a quick overview would be really helpful.
Okay, great. Well, I'll say something about the counselling service, Ealing Abbey Counselling Service, but I'll give a brief nod as well to the other organisations who are in our counselling consortium, because I'm just the one who's here. But there's actually several organisations in the Ealing Borough that have been around for many, many years. There's Ealing Abbey Counselling Service, Bereft Bereavement Support, and Asian Family Counselling Service, and also Metanoia Counselling and Psychotherapy Service. So there's actually quite a lot of provision out there. And we all serve adults in the borough. As far as Ealing Abbey Counselling Service goes, I guess where we sort of fit into the big picture is that we offer low cost, longer term support. That's what we're really known for. So this is typically people who need more than what they'd ever be able to really get from IAPT. They need something that's longer, perhaps more in depth. Their presentations generally tend to be a bit more complex. So but they can't afford to go privately. So we receive a lot of referrals from places like IAPT and GP services, but probably and we also receive a smaller amount of referrals from the secondary care teams as well. But we, about half of our sort of referrals, if you like, are self-referrals, which means that we're serving people who, you know, don't always want to go to their GP or want to be known, you know, really by that they're sort of seeking counselling, or so we have a you know, a really broad mix of clients, generally on the more complex end of the spectrum, but they, I guess, especially because Mint is such a big topic for all of us at the moment, you know, we don't generally work with people who, you know, you might have said were in the serious mental illness category of unwellness. Not that we're not open to that, but it's a question of a lot of it's to do with resources, really. And you know, most of our counsellors on placement, they're all on you know, good long courses, mostly sort of masters in psychotherapy, but you know, they're trainees at the end of the day, and that, you know, and our staff team itself is part-time, so it's just in terms of being equipped really to kind of really hold crises. You know, we have some of that going on anyway, but we just don't have the resources for that to become our core work, if you like. So we have to balance that, but we certainly do work with some of the more complex presentations as well. So yeah, I mean, since the virus broke out, we've continued to work. We went online sort of back in March. So we're offering online video basically at the moment. We really are keen to be able to reopen at least partially for some face-to-face work, you know, as soon as we're able, but that, you know, for all sorts of reasons, that's not been possible just yet. But, you know, early-ish next year, we're hoping to resume some of that. But most people were able to switch to online, thankfully. Did people know about the other services? I mean, there's ourselves, there's Asian Family. You know, shall I say something briefly about the other services?
Great. I think it's always good to go back to the beginning for people who are new to this forum. So yeah, please do.
Okay. So as well as so I should maybe just say that Ealing Abbey Counselling Service, before I do that actually, and also Metanoia. I mean, we're generalists. So, you know, we don't specialise in one particular area. If you like, our specialism is to be open to the, you know, the broad range of you know, complexities really that people are struggling with. So we're generalist, but the Asian Family Counselling Service, based in Southall, they, well, just by, you know, they deal with the Asian community. I think mostly they offer languages, I think in about 5 different South Asian dialects. And yeah, I mean, they're very culturally specific service. So, you know, they will deal with a range of very culturally specific sort of issues that might come up for, you know, people in that community. So I think that they get, again, a lot of referrals from places like IAPT, GP services. I think they deal with, you know, they don't just they deal with predominantly, they're offering counselling sessions, but there is also actually quite a lot of other support for other parts of those individuals' lives. So it might be something to do with immigration, or, you know, there'll be other components as well that they're supporting. And then bereft, well, it's obvious by the name, but you know, they do amazingly actually, because they operate, and they have done for years, you know, on an absolute, we're all operating in a way on a shoestring, but I'd say bereft really does, you know, do an amazing amount for very little money. And they sort of joke about being a no frills service, but actually they're very professional, and they've been able to support, well, at the moment they're supporting, I think their referrals have gone up. That's not surprising, you know, given the impact of this virus. But yeah, I mean, there's, you know, they're also out there. We all offer low cost. We're not free, and we're not able to. We don't have that luxury of funding, but But having said that, I mean, for example, Ealing Abbey, you know, our lowest fee is £5. So, and we've managed to keep it at that since about 2006 or something. So we think that's, you know, pretty good, and that seems to be manageable for people who, you know, are just relying on state benefits. I mean, if we do get people in sort of, you know, really dire straits, and even if that's just for a temporary time, we also have an assisted places scheme whereby we subsidise, you know, people even if they're paying £1, you know. But by and large, we do expect or need a payment, and we think it's actually quite important for people, you know, accessing our services, because there's something about the psychological engagement we often find does also go with paying something for the service they're receiving. Does anyone have, you know, anything that you want to ask me? I mean, just on that very, very brief summary of who we are, really.
Any questions for Deborah?
Yes, I have a question. Hi, Coral here. I'm employment specialist working within West London Mental Health Service. I just had a question because I think it's fantastic how broad it is, what you're providing. And I assume you've had a lot of increased demand since COVID. Apologies if this has already been said. I did have to nip to the loo, but I just wanted to ask if you're operating a waiting list at the moment. How are you finding referral intakes? How is it well managed?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, we at the beginning of the lockdown, I think lots of services experienced this. We had a complete drop off the cliff. I mean, there were no inquiries whatsoever, you know, but that has since picked up. But in fact, surprisingly, you know, in a way, you know, I'd say our referrals are fairly at the normal level. They don't feel like exceptionally high. I think bereft may have experienced exceptionally high. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's lots of bereavements going on, but in fact, our waiting list is generally about a month. That's a fair average. It does fluctuate. But because we're talking about our own service, I mean, we're all going to vary across the consortium to some extent. But I think one thing to mention is because we're generally known as a longer term service, I mean, clients can come for, you know, they don't have to come for a year, but we do offer up to a year, and you know, probably about how many? Probably at least about a quarter, you know, do make use of that year. But because we don't have a quick turnover, basically, you know, we're not seeing, we don't sort of have kind of like, we're not managing sort of hundreds upon hundreds of people on a waiting list, because we have to manage that, because we're sort of restricted in terms of how many counsellors become available at any one time. But in terms of our size, maybe just to give you an idea, really, so we generally operate on about optimally sort of 60 to 65 counsellors on placement, and they're generally seeing sort of, or available at least to see three clients each. So that sort of gives you an idea, you know, about 180 people in the service at any one time. I mean, in terms of our staff team, I'll just say, you know, there's only we're probably the equivalent of, what is it, about three part-time staff, three full-time staff between us, administratively and management, and that's the whole service, including assessing recruitment, assessing clients, I mean, you know, counselling, supervising, the whole thing. So we really are operating on limited resources, but yeah, I hope that gives you an idea of the kind of size and idea of it, really shaping it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
If I can share something, Anna from Pulse in Need. I have experience being a counsellor, having placement and Ealing Abbey counselling service. And what I would like to highlight and mention, that what is very important is safety for clients and both for counsellors who are in training, especially during this difficult time when we had to, as a students, to, you know, go for online support, you know, like work. And I have to say that how important it is that the placement, and I have various experiences. It was my 3rd placement as a counsellor. That, you know, administration and support, it's vital, because otherwise clients are not, they don't get safe and appropriate and good quality counseling. And especially now, it's so important. It's safety, support, and I have some health problems in summer, and I was so supported. So I would like to just really highlight that, because not every service is like that. And I have I had, you know, good opinion I received about before I started, and I can say during this pandemic the service was amazing for both clients and counselors. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Yeah, that's some lovely feedback. It's really good. Anyone else got any questions for Deborah? No?
I can see
Okay.
Corbier's here, actually. I didn't realise you were there, Corbier, from Asian Family Counselling Service.
Yes.
I had no idea you were at the meeting. So, hi.
No, that's all right. You did a very good job of selling our service. Thank you.
She certainly did, didn't she? Okay, so that's almost the end of the meeting. Just anyone got any other business?
Anna, as usual, sorry, it's typical for me, but good news. Anna from Pulse in Need. I mentioned a few times that we work on a portal online, Polanga, which is like a Polish directory of information, wide information, mental health, you know, about the addictions, basically everything. Settlement status, we have a Brexit on the way and the changes in registration. And there is quite a lot of fear that some people who are not visible in system, they might not get settlement status. There will be problems around deportations and you know, quite challenging situations. So this will go live, fingers crossed, this Sunday, hopefully. So I will send, as soon as it will go live, you know, and it's working, Toby, I will send you the link to the portal, because it will be a lot of information in the future about Ealing. We focus nationwide, but it will be Ealing. And the second bit, we due to the death of two of our clients that we supported, we delivered food and some additional support. 2 clients passed away last month, and we decided to do the movie about support for homeless people. And there will be Act on Homeless Concern input and other services, and the movie will be about 20 minutes long, in both in Polish and English. And I think it has emotional context a little bit, but also very informative. So I also will send link. It will be on YouTube and on Facebook also this weekend. So I will provide information to Toby. Just wanted to mention, because I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Okay then, so it's a bit of a quicker meeting today, but all that remains to be said is I hope everyone enjoys the Christmas break, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the new year.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Merry
Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Toby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Merry
Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.